Okay, good evening, everybody. The one that's sponsoring tonight's class is not on yet, but tonight's class is sponsored by Yehudis Greenberg for her father's yahrzeit tonight, and tomorrow's her father's yahrzeit, Rabbi Chil Greenberg. His Neshama should have an aliyah, and hopefully we'll mention again later when she gets on.
Amen.
Anyway, this week's Parsha is Parsha Vayeitzei. It's a long Parsha. Very interesting Parsha, and obviously a lot of things to talk about. We're going to start with a general concept. Again, I think we discussed it last year a little bit, but I want to look at it in different contexts with different things in the Parsha, how everything fits into the whole Parsha and to the name of the Parsha. The pasuk opens by Vayeitzei Yaakov Be'ersheva Vayelech Haran. Yaakov left Be'ersheva, which was the city where Yitzchak and Rivka lived. Vayelech Haran, he went to the city of Haran. Okay, he met the place. He took the stones, he put it around his head, and then he went to sleep. He had a dream. The ladder was from the ground up to the sky, and the angels were going down, up and down, and the whole very interesting story. Now, this pasuk, as we learned, we mentioned many times, that Ramban writes, the Maisa of is similar about Labanim, that whatever happened to the Oves and Imois, the patriarchs, matriarchs, and not only stories, Torah is not a storybook, Torah is actually a lesson for each one. And the fact that we say about each one, Avram Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu, Yaakov Avinu, we're basically saying that it's our father, and therefore everything that happened to our father and everything that happened about them and from them is a lesson for all of us. So in order to understand the rest of the Parsha properly, we need to understand the first pasuk. Okay? Chassidic explains that Yaakov Avinu going out of Be'ersheva is not only that he's going out of a place in Israel called Be'ersheva, and he's going to Haran, which is the name of a place. This refers, and where did Yaakov Avinu, by the way, go? He went to find a shidduch. He ended up marrying 4 wives. But he went to at least go for 1 shidduch, and he ended up making 4 shidduchim. This refers to the purpose of the Neshama coming into the body. Chassidic explains the Neshama coming into the body is also a marriage between soul and body. Just like marriage between man and women, and we know they're different, they're opposites. Yet there's a shidduch, a marriage between man and woman. There is a shidduch between the neshama and the guf, the neshama of the person and the body of the person, and they merge together as one, and they have a purpose in life. So the pasuk says like this: Vayeitzei Yaakov meBe'ersheva. Yaakov left Be'ersheva. Yaakov refers to the Jew. Where did the Jew go out from? Be'ersheva. What does Be'ersheva mean? The well of Sheva. Okay, simply it was called because it was the 7th well. But like we learned, the word Sheva, in addition to mean 7, means Shvuah. It means an oath, and it means Shin Beis Aleph also comes with Saveya. Shin Beis Ayin is the word for becoming full, becoming satisfied. So you have like this: the neshama comes down into the body. The purpose of the neshama coming down into the body is from, where's it coming from? Be'ersheva. What is Be'ersheva? The Gemara tells us, and Tanya opens up with that Gemara, that Mashbiyan Eisei Tehi Tzadik Val Tirasha, that before a neshama comes into the world, it's administered an oath that it should be a tzaddik and not a rasha. And Chassidic explains there's a redundancy. If you're a tzaddik, you're not a rasha. If you're a rasha, you're not a tzaddik. We learned that in the first parak of Tanya. And also Mashbiyan Eisei, the Alter Rebbe, some Chassidic explains it. The Alter Rebbe's question is, the neshama wants to be a tzaddik. The neshama is a tzaddik. What's the purpose of Mashbi and Eisei of giving the Neshama an oath and a vow that he should be a tzaddik and not a rasha? The Neshama wants to be a tzaddik. So Chassidus therefore explains that Mashbi and Eisei doesn't only mean we give it an oath. What is the oath? Seveya. We fill up the Neshama with the ability that he could be a tzaddik and not a rasha. So in the pasuk is saying, Vayeitzei Yaakov miBeersheva. It means right before the Neshama comes into the body, it's administered that oath that he tzaddik v'al rasha. Therefore, what are we saying over here? Vayeitzei Yaakov, when the Neshama comes down, where from Be'er-Sheva, from Gan Eden, the place which the Neshama comes into the body, and over there it's given the oath and the vow to be a tzaddik, meaning is given the ability that it could be a tzaddik. And where does the Neshama go? Vayela Charana. Okay, he comes into Charan. What is Charan? Simply, it means the name of a city. But Charan, the Medrash says, why was it called Charan? Charain af shel mokim. It's a place where God is angry. That means a world of Lavan and Besuel and corruption and lies and swindling and evil. That's Charan. What is the purpose of the Neshama? It's not a story that happened to Yaakov Avinu. Vayeitzei Yaakov miBeersheva, the Neshama is coming down from Beersheva. Where is it going into? Charana, which refers to the body, and the Nefesh Habamis, the Yetzer Hara, and all terrible things in the world. What is the purpose of this Neshama? What did Yaakov Avinu do? Vayikach me'avnei hamokim. He took from the stones and he put it around his head. And as everybody knows, the Medrash, the stones started fighting, and Rashi says that in his commentary. The stones started fighting. Each one wanted Yaakov Avinu on that stone. So what did Hashem do? To make peace amongst the stones? This is the simple story. Hashem made all the stones into one. So when Yaakov Avinu put his head down on the stone, on the rock, it was everybody, all the stones together. Let's take this much deeper. Avonim, stones. It says in Sefer Yetzirah, which is the book from creation, Kabbalistic book. It says letters are called avonim, stones. Stones are inanimate. Letters themselves have absolutely no meaning. It's inanimate. But what is the concept of a stone? The Sefer Yetzirah says the following expression. Two stones build two words. Two buildings, it says. Three stones build six buildings. What does this mean? And the same thing the Sefer Yetzirah says is about letters. If you have two letters, Aleph, Beis, you can make two words, Aleph, Beis, and Beis, Aleph. You have three letters, you can make six words. You have four letters, you can make, it keeps going way out of proportion. What does it mean? Vayikach me'avnei hamokim. Avnei hamokim refers to creation. The stones and the words that God created the world with. Avnei hamokim, the words, the stones of hamokim of Hashem. What did Hashem do? Hashem created a world of pluralism. Pirud, lack of unity, separation, diversity. What is the role of a Jew? The role of the Jew is to bring godliness into creation. What does it mean, bringing godliness into creation? To show, like Chassidus explains, to make from a Reshus HaRabim a public domain, to make a Reshus HaYochid, to make it a private domain. What does it mean? The goal of the Jew is to make public domain, meaning a world of lack of godliness, diversity, separation, fighting, whatever. To make it into a world of godliness. So what did Yaakov Avinu do? Yaakov Avinu in the story took stones, pluralism, world. And what did he do with it? He made it into one. He built the 12 Shvatim, 11 Shvatim. Binyamin was born on the way back. 11 Shvatim were born in base of the house of Lavan, the house of Bethlehem. So what's the avoid of the Neshama coming down into the world? To come into Charan, to take, the pasuk says, take pluralism, take stones, which meaning world, which is pluralism, and make it into Yachid, make it into one stone. That's the avoid of the Jew. With this introduction, we'll understand a whole bunch of things in the parsha now. Okay? And also to keep in mind that we all know the famous question that Rebbe asks in many Maimorim and Chassidus all over the place. Lama Yarda Neshama Lamata. The question that Rebbe asks in countless Maimorim. Why does the Neshama come into the world? The Neshama is together with Hashem in Gan Eden, higher than Gan Eden. What's the purpose of the Neshama coming into the world? And Chassidus explains, it's Yerida Tzeiras Aliyah. It's a descent for the purpose of elevation. The Neshama comes down into the world, accomplishes the mission of making Avnei Hamokim, plural, into one Even, into one godliness. Through this, the Neshama becomes elevated to a place greater than it was before. Before we go further, Yehudis was not online before. Today's class is sponsored by Yehudis Greenberg. Tonight's her father's yahrzeit, Rabbi Chiel Greenberg. The Neshama should have an aliyah, should be a good better for everybody. We mentioned it before, but now that you're on. Okay, now let's go through the various things of the parsha, and you'll see everything fits into place. When Yaakov Avinu has his dream, angels are coming to him in the dream. Right? Malachi, Elikim, Olim, V'Yardim, coming up, down, the whole thing. Where did he see the angels? Only in a dream. Only in a dream. All the way at the end of the parsha, happens to be a very long parsha, by the way, all the way at the end of the parsha, after Yaakov is coming home from Lavan's house, he's coming home, mamish, the last two psukim of the parsha, the Yaakov halach ledarkei, vayifka ubay malachi elikim. The angels of God appeared to him. Zayar says, Rebbe brings down in the Sikha, that the Zayar says not only did the malachim appear to him, but Hashem himself appeared to him. Where? Not in a dream. Vayifka ubay malachi elikim. Once Yaakov went down to Lavan, to Charan, and he accomplished the mission of creating the Yud Beis Shvatim, the 12 Shvatim, meaning making fun, and we'll see more and more about this, making the diversity and pirud and evil of Charan, Charein Av Shemak, where there's no unity, there's no bittul, there's no oneness of Hashem, he made into one, into godliness. He built the Yud Beis Shvatim, and then he merited that they didn't come to him in a dream. The angels came to him. And as the Zohar says, he even saw Hashem. So that's, we see the first thing that Yaakov Avinu accomplished by going down to Lavan's house. And then another interesting thing is like this. The pasuk says, Vayishka, it became dark. God made it set earlier. Vayishka b'mokim hahu. He fell asleep in that place. Now Rashi says, why does it say in that place he slept? He slept. So Rashi says, it's a miut, meaning he only slept in that place. But the 14 years he was in yeshiva of Shem De'ever, he didn't sleep. Okay, that's what Rashi says. Rashi says, what does it mean? He slept in this place, not 14 years in yeshiva. He didn't sleep, he was learning Torah. Another opinion, Medrash, says, what do you mean he slept in that place? Where else didn't he sleep? It says the 20 years in Lavan's house, as the pasuk himself says Yaakov is screaming at Lavan. He said, you haven't slept all the time I'm in your house, 20 years. I haven't slept. He says, day and night, I for 20 years I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep. So one opinion says, Yaakov Avinu slept in this place where he had the dream to exclude what? So one opinion says the 14 years in yeshiva, and the second opinion says that in the 20 years in Lavan's house. So the Rebbe asks an interesting question in the Sikha. I understand he didn't sleep in yeshiva because he was busy learning. He was busy learning, so he wanted to learn. He learned 14 years day and night. What was the problem of sleeping in Lavan's house? Why couldn't he sleep in Lavan's house? What was the big deal? And the pasuk is emphasizing he slept there, not in yeshiva and not in Lavan's house. What's the lesson for you and I? What's the lesson here? Not to sleep in yeshiva, we understand. If you're learning, you're learning. You're in a class, learn, don't fall asleep. But who cares if he slept in Lavan's house? What's the problem? So the Rebbe explains, again, at the end of the Parsha, when Yaakov and Lavan are meeting, okay, and Lavan screaming, you stole my gods, you stole my kids, So what does it say? It says like this. He caught up to him. And by the way, you see another interesting thing in the Parsha. God came to Lavan in a dream. That means Lavan was a Navi. Some opinions, by the way, say Lavan was Bilam's grandfather. One opinion says Lavan was Bilam. But Lavan was a prophet. I mean, Lavan wasn't, he was a Rasha. But he was a great soul because God came to him in a dream. And Hashem came to him. So he says like this. Lavan meets Yaakov, and he says like this. Habanes, here. Abanim banai, one second, let me get this straight, the Lashon over here. Okay, Lavan says to him like this. Oh, by Shvi. Vayan Lavan vayemel Yaakov. Habanes b'naisai, the daughters are my daughters. Habanim banai, the sons are my sons. Vatzain saini, and the sheep is my sheep. What's the Torah saying over here? The Rebbe explains Lavan represents the world, the evil of the world. The lesson for us. World comes along to a Jew and says to him the following. The old people, let them learn Torah, let them do mitzvahs. We have no problem with it. That was the communists in Russia. They didn't care so much if the older people learned Torah and did mitzvahs. They didn't want the older people teaching the children. That's what they were upset about. When they opened chadarim schools and mikvahs, which is the future of the Jewish people, that's what they were opposed to. Lavan comes to Yaakov and says, listen, kid, you want to be religious, you want to be frum, there's no problem with that. But Lavan says to Yaakov, Habanais b'naisai, the younger generation, they're mine. Habanais b'naisai v'habanim banai, they are mine. Those children have to be modernized. What else did Lavan say? Hatzain Saini. Lavan said, listen, you want to deal with spirituality? Fine. Gashmias, the physical, that belongs to me. That you can't touch. What is the Lavan of the world saying in our time? What is the Lavan of the world saying to the Jew, to Yaakov Avinu? The evil forces of the world are saying children don't need a Jewish education. They need to modernize. They need to live with the times. They need to be part of the modern generation. You can't put them back into the shtetl. And then they come along and say, listen, Davening and learning, fine, that's your department. Business, that's my department. Lovin says, my business is I could swindle, I could cheat, I could do whatever I want. That's my business. It doesn't belong to you. What's the reality? The reality that Rebbe explains is obviously not that. The children have to be educated in chinuch, the boys, the girls, the boys. A Jew needs to know, Hatzain Tzaini. Business is not Lavan's. Business is God's vessel and vehicle for our parnasa. So it has to be a Torah business. It has to be a business that follows in the guidelines of Torah. So the Rebbe explains that's why Yaakov couldn't sleep for 20 years. Why couldn't he sleep for 20 years? Shame, I understand. He was learning Torah. He didn't want to waste time. Yaakov Avinu had to be on guard 24/7. He couldn't go to sleep. I don't only mean physically sleeping. Yaakov Avinu cannot lose his guard and not keep the guard. He has to understand that there's a 24/7. People want to take away our children from us. People want to show that godliness and world is two different things. And therefore, business is business, and you could do in business whatever you want. And you keeping the shul and the yeshiva. Yaakov Avinu is teaching us you have to be up 24/7 to make sure these things don't happen to our children. You have to make sure that whatever happens in the world is part of God. I mentioned in the past, not that long ago, in fact, that the Shliach in Italy, Rabbi Gershman passed away this year. He got a call from the Rebbe's office, 2-3 o'clock in the morning, Italian time. And Rabbi Chodikov, the Rebbe's personal secretary, was on the line. And he said, Rabbi Gorelik, says, yes. What are you doing now? He says, what do you mean I'm doing? I'm sleeping at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning. So Rabbi Chodikov said to him, the Rebbe wants to know, how can you sleep at night when there's one Jewish kid in Italy that doesn't have proper Jewish education? It's not a story. The Rebbe is teaching us something so vital over here. And that is, how in the world could you lose your guard? Take down the guard. You need to understand that 24/7, you have to make sure they don't kidnap our children, they don't kidnap our businesses. Like people, I mean, you can talk about chinuch now. I don't want to get into it. I want to talk more about the parsha. But as parents, do they know where their kids are in the middle of the night? Do people know where the kids are? A lot of parents don't. They're out with friends. They know where they are. Do they know what they're doing? Is it Abanis B'naisai V'Abanim Banai? In that place I slept, but not. Again, it's unstable. It's not clear. Hello, people.
You freeze from time to time, and your audio sometimes is a little distorted, but it's okay.
I don't know why. I have to check into it. Anyway, and that answers another question. The Rebbe asked the question, in Shem Va'aver, he didn't sleep. In Lavan's house, he didn't sleep. Why in the world did Hashem make Yaakov sleep in the place of the Beis Hamikdash? Vayishka b'makom ahu means he slept in the Beis Hamikdash, in the place of the Beis Hamikdash. Why in the world would Hashem, I understand he didn't sleep there, he didn't sleep there. So why did Hashem make him fall asleep? Vayishka b'makom, it says that Hashem made a doubt that he should fall asleep. Why in the world did Hashem make that Yaakov Avinu should sleep in that place? It doesn't make sense. That holy place, for sure, he shouldn't be sleeping. And the Rebbe explains like this. Normally, a person stands or sits. The head is higher than the body, which is higher than the feet. When you're laying down, the head and the feet are equal. The whole body is equal. It says, why is a person created in the image of Hashem? Because just like by Hashem, intellect is above emotions. By a Jew, our seichel is higher than the head is higher than the heart. A behemoth, an animal, the whole body is on one level. That's in a negative way. In a positive way, when a person lays down to sleep, the head and the body are equal. So the Rebbe explains what happened over here. Hashem wanted Yaakov to sleep in that area because he received in that place such a revelation of holiness that the head and the feet both are equal, meaning it's such an infinite revelation of Hashem that head and toes are equal. So it's not because of negativity, like an animal, it's all on the same line. Hashem wanted Yaakov Avinu to sleep in that place because by laying down flat, Yaakov Avinu actually accomplished that he received a revelation of Hashem that's so infinite, which is called Seviv Kolam, and the encompassing infinite level of Hashem, that the highest and the lowest are both the same. So that's why Yaakov Avinu went to sleep in that place. Okay, another thing that also fits into this concept is as follows. When Hashem spoke to Avram Avinu, at the beginning of Chayei, Hashem said to Avram Avinu, something like this. Hashem said to him, and then Hashem said, I want you to go throughout the whole land. I want you to walk. And Rashi quotes in the Medrash that Avram Avinu Taka walked the entire perimeter of Eretz Yisrael because that was an act of acquisition. Okay? Hashem told Avram Avinu, go and walk around the whole country. Okay? Yaakov Avinu, interesting thing happened over here. Yaakov Avinu went to sleep. And what happened? Rashi says Hashem took the whole Eretz Yisrael and put it under him. Why did Hashem take the whole Eretz Yisrael and put it under him? Because Hashem said to Yaakov Avinu, I'm going to give you here the land which you're sleeping on. I'm giving it to you and your children. Interesting. Avram Avinu, to acquire Eretz Yisrael, had to walk the whole land. Yaakov Avinu didn't have to do anything. He slept on the land. Hashem took the whole Eretz Yisrael, put it under him, and that's what happened. He acquired the whole land. And the Rebbe explains in the Sikh based on Medrashim that initially the plan was by Hashem, what he told Yaakov Avinu, I'm giving you the land without a battle. Initially, the point was that the Jews should enter Eretz Yisrael and conquer it without any battles whatsoever. Because that's what Hashem promised Yaakov Avinu. Not Avram Avinu, because he had a Yishmael and Yitzchok had an Esav. Yaakov, all his children were tzaddikim, mitosei shlema. Hashem said to Yaakov, you are acquiring the whole land without any problems. I'm just giving it to you, underneath you. And that's what was supposed to happen. The Medrash said, what happened? When the Jews sinned and the sin of the Meraglim, that caused, because they doubted that Hashem is going to give it to them without any problems. They said, oh, these giants over there in the fortified cities, how are we going to conquer it? because they doubted Hashem, they lost out in the practice, in the prophecy that Hashem said to Yaakov Avinu that he's going to get the land without any problem. And he told it to Yaakov Avinu because Yaakov was the father of the Klal Yisrael, not Yishmael and not Esav, but all the children. So therefore Hashem said to Yaakov, you're going to get it easily. The Jews sinned, they ruined it, they killed it. Another thing that a lot of commentaries ask is as follows. If you learn the Parsha simply, it's a lot of problems. After the dream, and he made the stone into a matzeva monument for Hashem, but then it says like this. Vayida Yaakov, listen to this. Vayida Yaakov neder leimer. Yaakov made a vow, and he says like this. Im yeh modi, if God will be with me, ushmarani baderech hazeh, and he'll guard me on this road that I'm taking. V'nosen lechem lechol, and give me food to eat, ubeged lobesh, and a garment to wear. V'shavti v'sholem el beis avi, and he'll return me peacefully to my father's house. Then he says, V'hoya Hashem li l'elokim, then God will be my God. Okay, though we say it is a half a problem. Yaakov Avinu basically is telling, simply, Yaakov Avinu is telling Hashem, listen, God, I'm making a deal with you. You take care of me, you give me food and clothing, and you bring me back peacefully without any problems, then you'll be my God. And if not, implying you won't be my God. How does that work? How could Yaakov Avinu say something? And that's the simple meaning of the pasuk. But the truth of the matter is that's not what the pasuk means. What Yaakov is telling Hashem, and this is again, like we discussed at the beginning, this is the neshama of a Jew coming into the world. Yaakov going to love, and the Jew waking up every morning. Every morning you're waking up, you're leaving Be'ersheva and you're going to Haran. What's happening over here? Yaakov Avinu says like this. Hashem, I want you to know, there is nature and there is supernatural. Okay? Nature, we learned already many times, comes in the name of Elokim. Elokim equals 86, same numerical value of Hateva. Hashem created the world with the name of Elokim. It's all natural. Yud Kei Vav Kei, okay, is the supernatural. It's the supernatural. Now let's analyze the pasuk like this in a much deeper way. Yaakov Avinu, and we know, we say in davening, especially at the end of Yom Kippur, Hashem hu Elokim. Hashem is Elokim. Which means, it doesn't mean God is God. I mean, that's ridiculous. God is God. Of course, God is God. What else? Hashem hu Elokim means, by a Jew, supernatural is really our nature. Or our nature is really supernatural. A Jew firmly believes that what is Elokim, Hashem hu Elokim, Havaya hu Elokim. What is our nature? What is the nature of the Jew? What is the survival of the Jew? The life of the Jew? It's Havaya is Elokim. The supernatural is really what our nature is. Our nature is supernatural. According to the laws of nature, the Jews should have been extinct thousands of years ago. We shouldn't be here today. A Jew realizes that we are not limited in Elokim. We are Havaya Elokim. Our nature is really supernatural. So now let's see what Yaakov Avinu is telling Hashem, and listen carefully to the words. Vayida Yaakov neder leimer, Yaakov made a vow. Im yeh Elokim imodi. He didn't say Havaya. He didn't say Yukevavki. If Elokim will be with me, meaning You deal with me naturally. And you're going to protect me. And you'll give me food to eat. And garments to wear. And you're going to make me return peacefully to my father's house. What does he say then? Then what will I see? If you're going to protect me in Lavan's house, and you're going to protect me coming back facing an Esau, if you're going to protect me that I come back peacefully, then Yaakov says to Hashem, Hashem Lila, not a condition, that then you'll be my God, otherwise not. Yaakov Avinu is telling Hashem, then I will see the Vahaya Hashem Havaya Lila Elokim. Then I will see that Havaya is Elokim, meaning that my nature is supernatural. And that's why Chazal tell us also, Chazal tell us when it says Vayihi Bimei, it's an expression of pain. Ein Vahaya Ela Simcha, Chazal tell us. When it says the word Vahaya, it's a sign of Simcha, of joy. What is Yaakov saying? Vahaya Hashem Lila Lekim. Then the simcha will be that I will realize that what is my nature? It's really supernatural. There's no way naturally I can overcome a Lavan and overcome an Esav and build the Jewish tribes, the 12 Shvatim in by Lavan. It can't be. So not, God forbid, Yaakov is making a condition with him. Listen, God, if you're good to me, then you'll be my God. If you're not good to me, forget it. I'm not interested in you. God forbid for Yaakov Avinu to say that. But Yaakov Avinu starts off by saying, if my nature, you'll be naturally with me in a way that I live through all the trials and tribulations. You're going to give me food to eat and to drink. And garments to wear, and you're going to bring me back peacefully, Yaakov, then I will realize that the nature of a Jew is not Elokim, it's really Havaya. And this is the lesson for all of us. The role of a Jew in world, the role of a Jew in life is to show that nature is really supernatural. It's the same God. Hashem hu Elikim. And especially by a Jew. This is what Yaakov Avinu is teaching us. It's not stam. This is the Neshama coming into the body. What's the purpose of the Neshama coming into body? To show that diversity is really one God. Meaning that nature is really not a concealment of God. Nature is God. Hashem hu Elikim. Nature is really Yud Kei Vav Kei. The supernatural, the natural is really supernatural, especially the way it is by a Jew. Okay, another, and connected to this, we're talking about the role of the Jew. Chassidus explains that the word Alter Rebbe in Torah in this week's Parsha says an interesting thing. The word Charon, Ches Reish Nun, which means anger, diversity, terrible, evil, whatever. We know in Hebrew, many letters are interchangeable. Okay, this concept called Atbash, Aleph and Tav, Beis and Shin, Gimel and Reish. There's also letters that have the same formation, like Aleph, Ches, Hey, Ayin, Acha comes in the throat. So many times in Torah, those letters are interchangeable. We know by Chometz and Matzah, the difference between Chometz and Matzah is a Ches and a Hey. Mem Tzadik is the same by both. One's a Ches and a Hey. Choron, which means anger, but the role of the Jew is to make Choron into Rina, Reish Nun Hey, which means Gilur Rina Detzavacheva, happiness. The role of a Jew when they come into the world is to make Choron into Rina. Where does a Jew get that from? From Be'er Sheva. He gets the power of the Shvuah Mashpia Neseh. And Alter Rebbe says another interesting thing. The word for plagues, leprosy, is called nega. A plague. A person with leprosy is considered dead. They have to be excommunicated. Nega, nun, gimel, ayin, is the same letters as the word oneg, which means pleasure. The role of a Jew, of Vayeitzei Yaakov and the mission of Yaakov into Lavan's house is to make from Choron into Rina and to make Nega into Einig. Evil transformed into good. And that's why, Alter Rebbe explains in the Maimer, it says, V'shafti b'sholem o beisavi. I will return simply means you return me peacefully to my father's home. Chassidic explains like this: B'sholem is Bais Sholem. Bais Sholem means two piece. Yavin v'yitin lecha. It's a positive, but we say Sholem Sholem lakorev v'lerachik. Sholem Sholem is peace to the distant and to the close. Chassidic explains, what does Sholem mean? Peace. What does peace mean? Peace means when two conflicting things become one. That's what the definition of peace is. That's why Sholem is the same word as the word shleimus. Shleimus means completeness. What does peace have to do with being complete? Because when two different things become one, they become complete. Like we learned, man and woman are born, same neshama split into two. They get married, the two half of the neshamas are joining into one. That's shalom bayis. That's the concept of shleimus, of completeness. What does it mean, the two levels of shalom? When two things become one, there's two ways of it happening. There's really three ways, but two general ways. Top comes to bottom, or bottom goes to top. Okay, there's top and bottom. Top and bottom are two separate things. How do you make peace? That they become one. How do they become one? It could be one of two ways. Either top comes to bottom, or bottom goes to top. Chassidic explains that's what Bisholim means, V'shafti Bisholim el Beis Avi. Now Chassidic explains, not for now, Beis Avi represents Seichel, intellect of Elokus. We take the Charon and we transform it into Kedusha of a Seichel, Beis Avi, and so on and so forth. But that's not for now. What is Yaakov Avinu saying? What am I accomplishing in my life? When I'm going back to Beis Avi, meaning when I'm going back to Gan Eden, where I come from after 120 years, after 120 years, I'm coming back Bisholem and making peace in two ways. What's the role of the Jew in world, the Neshama coming down to Charan? There's two ways of connecting world with God. What is the purpose? Avnei Hamokim, pluralism, to make it one God. Now, how do you make pluralism into one God? You can have it two ways. Either God comes to world or world goes up to God. Each one has an advantage and disadvantage. When you have both ways, you have the ultimate completeness. So this is what Yaakov Avinu is telling us in our life. The role of the Jew. Hashem is giving us food. Hashem is giving us garments. What is the purpose of this? Havaya to be Elokim. V'hoya Hashem lil Elokim. The role of a Jew is to show that Elokim is really Havaya. It's the supernatural. What is our role? I know that I don't know what to do with the internet. I'm sorry. Try to fix it for next time. I'll call the company. What is the purpose though? B'shafti b'sholem, that I should have both levels of completeness. show that God is in the world and the world is in God. And that's the avodah of the Jew. Avodah of the Jew in the time of being born into the world to transform Choron into Rina. And therefore, Yaakov, the whole time when he was in Lavan's house, he was playing with the colored sticks. Okay, he was playing with the colored sticks. Sidis explains, we mean colored sticks. Yaakov is playing with colored sticks. We mentioned in the previous parshas like this. Avram is chesed. Chesed is giving. Therefore, what did Avram Avinu do? Hospitality, giving. Yitzchak is gvura, restriction, limitation, removal, like fire versus water. Water comes down, fire goes up. What did Yitzchak Avinu do? We learned in Parshas told us. He dug wells. What happens when you dig a well? The water comes up from lower to higher. What did Yaakov Avinu do for a living? He played with colored sticks. What's colored sticks? Yaakov Avinu has nothing to do with colored sticks. The colored sheep, and not colored sheep. What is this multicolored thing going on? So Chassidus explains, Yaakov Avinu is the level of Tiferes. Tiferes is beauty. Beauty cannot be from one color. You can't have a beautiful picture with one color. You can't have a beautiful symphony with one piece, one musical piece. You need harmony. You need harmony of colors, harmony of symphony, and then you create a beautiful thing. Yaakov Avinu's Aveda, because it was the attribute of Tiferes, his Aveda was coloring, multicolored. And therefore, Chazal say that Yaakov Avinu playing with the colored sticks accomplished the same. The Rav kept the Torah. How did Yaakov Avinu put on tefillin? Yaakov Avinu put on tefillin by using colored sticks. What does that symbolize? The level of Tiferes. What does this have to do? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll get a better router for better reception. Thank you. Okay, now, what does that have to do with us? We are all Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. The Shvatim, the 12 tribes, we don't say Reuven Avinu, Shimon Avinu, Levi Avinu. They're not Avinus. Why? The people who came from Reuven had the Aveda of Reuven, like we discussed at great length last year. Shimon, the Aveda of Shimon. Reuven is seeing, Shimon is listening. Levi is Yulavi Ishi, accompaniment. Yehuda is Hodah, Bittul, subservience. If you came from Reuven, your Aveda was not Shimon's Aveda. If you came from Shimon, you weren't Levi's Aveda. Every single Jew has Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They're Avinu, Avraham Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu, Yaakov Avinu. Every one of us has to emulate and personify Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So therefore, what do we need to do, all of us? We need to have Avraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov. All three of them. You can't have two out of the three. You need three. And that's why the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, the world stands on three things: Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim. Who was Torah? Yaakov Avinu learned Torah. What was Tefillah? Akedas Yitzchak. That's Yitzchak Avinu. Avodah, Tefillah. Gemilas Chasadim. That's Avraham Avinu. The world stands on all three things. Each one of us, in the mission of coming into Choron, into the world, we can't only do Yaakov Avinu's Aveda. We need to do hospitality. We need to dig wells, spiritually I'm talking about, and we need to play with colored sticks. Each of us, in our own way, to connect to Hashem, has to be done in all three aspects. And that's why we find that the Vaad of the Jew is like Yaakov Avinu also did color sticks, the aspect of Gemilas Chasadim. And that's the way we function. Another interesting thing is, in the Parsha it says there was the Shvatim. Everybody knows there's what's called Yisachar and Zvulun. Yisachar and Zvulun were brothers, but they made a partnership. You see later on Chumash, Smach Zvulun b'tzeisecha v'Yisachar b'yalecha. Zvulun were business people. Yisachar, the tribe of Yisachar learned Torah. Okay, Yeda Yeitim, Zvulun l'chei faniyas yishkain. Zvulun lived by the port. They were constantly traveling, making money. Yisachar and Zvulun made a pact, and this was what Hashem planned, by the way, originally, that Yisachar should learn Torah, Zvulun supports them, and they share everything equally. The Torah learning, the money, everything was done equally. Now, when it says Zvulun, when Zvulun was born, so the Medrash says the expression that Bais Zvul means a living quarters. L'cha'era, why is Zvulun the living quarters? Zvulun is the businessman. Yisachar is learning Torah. Yisachar should be the home of God. Why isn't Yisachar the home of God? Why is Zvulun Bais Zvulach? It's called and another interesting thing we find, when Yaakov was by Lavan 20 years, he wasn't learning Torah. He didn't sleep in Shem Ve'ever. It doesn't say, he said, I didn't stop sleep. I didn't sleep. I was taking care of the cattle. I was taking care of my kids. We don't find Yaakov Avinu learning Torah there. Before he went to Lavan, in order not to be affected by Lavan, in order to be able to create the shift the Yudke, the holy Shvatim, he had to learn Torah 14 years. Then he has enough ammunition, enough support to be able to go into Lavan's house and remain the tzaddik in Lavan Garti, the tzaddik that Yaakov Avinu was. He needed that 14 years. But what was the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal of Dira B'Tachtenim, of the mission what Hashem created the world for, was to create Bais Zvulach in world, not in the world of Torah, in the world of business. And therefore Yaakov Avinu eventually was Zvulun Bais Zvulach. Where is the home of God? In Zvulun. And that's why we find an interesting thing throughout the duration of the Parsha. You would think that Yaakov Avinu would have the children, the holy Shvatim, in Eretz Yisrael. That would make more sense. You want to build a holy nation, have them in Eretz Yisrael. In fact, Binyamin Taka was born in Eretz Yisrael, but all the other Shvatim weren't. Why did Hashem want the Shvatim to be built Dafka by Lavan, in the most corrupt place in the world? Because Hashem wants a Dira B'Tachtenim. Hashem says, yes, Torah is the prerequisite. You need Torah. You have to start every day with Torah, and then you can take on the world. If you don't start with Torah, you cannot take on the world. The world will take you on. So Yaakov Avinu is teaching us over here like this. You want to know where the Bais Zvulach is? And therefore, by the way, later on in Chumash, it says, Smach Zvulun b'tzeisecha v'Yisachar b'yalecha. And the Medrash says, first the Torah mentions Zvulun. Smach Zvulun b'tzeisecha, and then Yisachar. Why? Because the ultimate purpose of creation is to bring Torah into the world, to bring mitzvahs into the world, to show that there's not a Torah world and a physical world and two separate entities. Yaakov Avinu showed him throughout this duration that nature is really supernatural. And all the things that we discussed throughout the evening is all showing the purpose of bringing godliness into the lowest of the lowest places. And that's why Zvulun is called the Beis Vuluch, the home of Hashem, and not anything else. Just one more interesting thing before we, by the way, I have to make a very important announcement. Next Monday night, there's no class. This Wednesday, there's a class. Next Monday night, I'm not going to, Moshe Matom, I'm sorry, somebody already took it. I can give you Wednesday night. Tonight's Yehudas Greenberg sponsored. You can sponsor Wednesday night. It's still before your father's yahrzeit. And another interesting, so next Monday night, there's no share. This Wednesday night, there's a share. Following Wednesday night, a week from tonight, there's no share. Now, there's very interesting Gemara. The Gemara says if you want to be a chassid, you want to be a righteous person, so there's three opinions what you should do. One opinion is you should occupy yourself b'dinei nezikin. Learn the laws of damages, because then you'll stop damaging people. You learn the laws of damaging. Another opinion in the Gemara says, it's all Gemara, three opinions. Another opinion in the Gemara Rava says is you should learn Milsadi of Pirkei Avos. You should learn Avos. And the third opinion says you should learn brachis. These are the three opinions. If you want to become a righteous Jew, first opinion says learn the laws of damages. Second opinion says learn Pirkei Avos. And the third opinion says learn the laws of brachis. So I saw an interesting word before. Nezikin is a nun, brachis is a beis, and Avos is an aleph. That's Evan. When Yaakov Avinu put his head on the Evan, he said, why did he put his head on the Evan? Because Evan is an acronym for Avos, brachis, and Nezikin. You want to become a righteous Jew? That's what you should emphasize. Those three things, and that's the word Evan that represents the strength of Yaakov Avinu in the dream and to be able to build the Jewish people. Anyway, I'm sorry for this interruption of the internet. I don't have to call the company, see what's going on. But again, tonight's class again is sponsored by Yehudas Greenberg. Tonight is her father's yahrzeit, Rabbi Chiel Greenberg. Neshama should have an aliyah, should be a good to better. Mitzvah Shem Wednesday night's class will be sponsored by Moshe Mataban for his father's.
I'd like to also sponsor. It's my father's yahrzeit Wednesday.
Oh, we can double it. No problem. Anyway, until then, everybody have a great week, and we'll see you Mitzvah Shem Wednesday night.
Thank you so much, Rabbi.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.